This Breast Cancer Awareness Month, a group of more than 12,000 doctors is sounding the alarm about a new risk.
This is a concern for every woman, not just someone who's had a diagnosis.
That concern? Cheese. Doctors say the high-fat dairy product contains high levels of estrogen, which research shows can lead to increased risk of both diagnosis and death from breast cancer.
Puberty usually begins at an earlier age in girls than in boys. Most girls enter puberty at about 12 or 13, and most boys at about 14 or 15. Puberty is a very important stage in your lives, and you should fully understand what it means and how it affects your body. These simplified drawings represent the bodies of a growing boy and girl before the onset of puberty. Regulating the growth and life of the human body is a system of glands. They are called the endocrine or ductless glands. These glands do their work by secreting certain chemical substances called hormones. Some of these hormones bring about changes within the body. During puberty, they are also responsible for the changes which finally turn a boy into a man and a girl into a woman.
A new study out today finds girls in this country are starting puberty at a younger and younger age. Researchers found early breast development as young as 7 in 10% of white girls, nearly 15% of Hispanic girls, and 23% of African American girls. For white girls, that rate is twice what it was just a decade ago. Our medical correspondent, Dr. Jennifer Ashton, is an OBGYN as well as an author of a book on adolescence. So, Jen, more girls are developing earlier. Why is that?
Right. And Katie, as these numbers show, we know that with Hispanic and African American girls, they do experience puberty earlier, partially because there are higher rates of obesity in these groups, and we know that fat can produce estrogen. Now, the obesity epidemic affects all groups, so we are seeing this dramatic change in the onset of puberty occurring earlier across the board.
And this has been trending in this direction, I know, for some time. And there have been all sorts of theories, from hormones and the food supply to the fact that, you know, girls are being overly sexualized at younger and younger ages in our popular culture. Are those theories true at all?
You know, Katie, there are multiple factors, but there's growing concern about the environment, that there are compounds in plastic, for example, BPA, and in fertilizers that may mimic estrogen in the body and speed up the puberty clock.
And there are medical implications to the early onset of puberty.
Absolutely. We've known for quite some time that early puberty is associated with an increased risk of breast and uterine cancer later in life. It can contribute to low self-esteem amongst these girls, and also, Katie, it can lead to earlier sexual behavior, all obviously significant.
The pituitary gland sets off the process of puberty by increasing the secretion of that hormone which controls the rate of growth of the body. Therefore, puberty is introduced by a rapid spurt of growth.
One study showing women who consumed the most cheese had a 53% higher risk of getting the disease. That's why the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine is urging the FDA to put cancer warning labels like this on cheese. The exact wording: dairy cheese contains reproductive hormones that may increase breast cancer mortality risk.
Doc Talk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Let's get into this and start talking about breaking it down. Steroid implants have been around since the 50s.
Yes.
And, you know, what compounds are used?
Well, we can get super technical and put everybody to sleep, myself included, but in a broad sense, we typically use estrogenic and androgenic hormones, the common, what we'd all know as the female hormone and the male hormone.
So estrogenic would be like your estradiol or estrogens. Androgenic or the testosterone, but we don't actually use testosterone. We use an analog called trenbolone.
Correct. It's more potent than the testosterone, but it does essentially the same thing in the body.
It is a study that has a lot of parents talking. It shows that girls are hitting puberty earlier than ever. And a new study from Cincinnati Children's Hospital finds that 42% of African American girls have hit puberty by age 8, But it's not just African Americans. Over the past 13 years, the age at which girls hit puberty has fallen among all races. We are joined tonight by Dr. Jean Schatz from Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, and Dr. Schatz is an expert in adolescent medicine, working with tweens and teens. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, Doctor.
You're welcome.
So we were talking a little bit earlier. These findings don't really surprise you.
No, we've seen this for years in pediatrics, and we've seen the age of menarche drop over the last 150 years from an age of 17 or 18 years of age to now 11 to 12 years of age.
It's really something, and showing signs of development as early as 7.
Correct.
So let's talk a little bit more about what you think the causes might be. I know that there are many theories about this. What are some of them?
One of the theories is increase in body weight, body mass.
So kids are just
heavier.
They're heavier, they weigh more.
Body fat, and this seems to bring on the onset of puberty earlier.
The development earlier, okay.
Right. Other theories are chemicals, both in the environment and in our food supply.
Any way to prove any of those theories? I mean, a lot of tests being done on things like that?
Lots of research being done to see if there is a significant correlation between any of those theories, yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, with these findings in a study like this, what kind of an effect do you think it has as far as early puberty is concerned, health-wise?
Well, there are both medical and psychological consequences of early puberty.
Let's talk about the medical.
The earlier you start breast development, there seems to be a correlation with an increased incidence of breast cancer after menopause. The earlier you start puberty, the higher incidence of both depression and eating disorders.
Okay, so those psychological things as well. Right. How does all of this affect boys as well with some of these developments?
It seems to be just the opposite with boys. Boys who have a higher body mass index seem to develop later, and their onset of puberty seems to be later than the young ladies.
Interesting. So we've seen a difference that way.
Some brand new research to tell you about that goes against almost everything you've ever heard about the benefits of drinking milk. A new study shows that intaking a higher intake of milk may actually cause an increased rate in fractures and even death in both men and women. Board-certified internist Dr. Sue Dakotas joins us now to explain. All right, doctor, we've always heard, you know, as a kid, your parents, you better drink that milk. It's good for you, healthy bones. But I guess with everything, there's a limit.
There is a limit, and we know that milk is composed of 2 essential ingredients, sugar and protein. And I think it's the protein in milk, the whey, that really gives milk a lot of its benefits. So you can get that without drinking milk. The problem is that if you're drinking a lot of milk, you're also getting the sugar, which is galactose. Mm-hmm. Now, we know that sugar, when it's broken down in the body, can cause a lot of toxic free radicals. Okay. And this causes a lot of inflammation. It can really interfere with bone health, and it can really increase the rate of cancer. And that's what these Swedish investigators found in this recent study.
The implant site is subcutaneous between the skin and cartilage on the backside of the ear and below the midline of the ear. The implant must not be deposited closer to the head than the outer edge of the auricular cartilage ring. The location for the insertion of the needle should be at a point toward the tip of the ear, at least a needle length away from the intended deposition location. Take care to avoid injuring the major blood vessels or cartilage of the ear. Once the needle is fully inserted, squeeze the trigger of the Raulo gun to deliver a full dose of Ralgro. Keep the trigger fully depressed until the implant needle has been removed from the ear to ensure that the implant remains properly deposited. A calf properly implanted with Ralgro will have increased weaning weights and allow cattlemen to produce more beef.
Sometime after the period of rapid growth has started, the pituitary gland, for the first time, secretes another kind of hormone. This new hormone influences the sex glands in both sexes.
Now we're talking about what used to be referred to as precocious puberty, meaning it was rare.
not so rare anymore. As you said, about 15% of girls now starting breast development as early as the age of 7.
Yeah, now you've written a book on young women and how their bodies change. How does this impact girls, something like this? 7 sounds extremely young.
Absolutely, and we have to remember, Chris, this is occurring at a time in childhood development where all girls and children want to do is fit in and look like the person sitting next to them. So it can generate a lot of fear. It's not cute. Adults can look at it and say, oh, how cute. It's really an adult body, a developing adult body in a child's age. And we know that girls of that age can suffer from low self-esteem. They can be subjected to more peer pressure, increased risks of eating disorder, even depression. They are known to participate in sexual activity at an earlier age because of this. And also they can be shorter because we know that estrogen, which is one of the key hormones in puberty, closes off the growth plates, and girls will not be as tall as they would if they went through puberty at a later age.
Like we mentioned in the lead-in a few moments ago, this was almost unheard of decades ago. Why is this now happening?
We don't completely understand the reason for that, Chris. There are a couple of theories out there. A big one is obesity. We know that body fat generates the hormone estrogen partially, and estrogen is part of the key hormones that triggers puberty. Obviously, we have a lot more children who are overweight and obese. Two big things: increased risk of breast cancer, increased risk of uterine cancer, again, because there's more time that they're subjected to the hormone estrogen. So it's not a trivial thing by any means.
The Journal of the American Medical Association released a new study today that finds women on hormone replacement therapy are at greater risk for contracting more aggressive cancers. The study followed nearly 13,000 women between the ages of 50 and 79 for 11 years. It found the women who took a combination of estrogen plus progestin had an increased risk of death compared to women not on the drugs.
First of all, the compounds that are utilized in steroid implants are estrogen, progesterone, and trenbolone acetate. Estrogen and progesterone are both female reproductive hormones that cows, people produce daily, okay? The next steroid implant is trenbolone acetate, and that product is an analog of testosterone. That analog has more affinity for testosterone receptors than testosterone itself. And so it's a synthetic compound that's used in these steroid implants to promote growth. For an 800 to 1,000 pound animal, the estrogen progesterone pellet that we put subcutaneously underneath the ear is about the size of an Advil, 200 milligrams.
The new normal is becoming earlier.
In Monday's Medical Journal of Pediatrics, new research finds girls in the U.S. are hitting puberty at younger ages. Pediatrician Dr. Lindenberg sees the proof right here in San Diego.
I've seen children as young as, 5, 4, developing spuds or pubic hair.
More than 12 girls from New York, Cincinnati, and San Francisco. Compared to a similar study in 1997, more than twice as many show signs of breast development and even menstruation by age 7.
I don't believe it's nature happening. I think it is things we are doing that are causing an outcome that may not be in the best interest of our next generation.
Milk is loaded with powerful growth hormones, hormones that should never be in the human body.
Imagine a cow on crack cocaine. That's how author Robert Cohen describes something shot into millions of cows on American farms.
We genetically engineer a hormone that produces more milk when we didn't need more milk.
While Cohen admits calcium is good for you, he says leafy green vegetables have lots more calcium than milk.
If you look at nature's perfect food, human breast milk, there are 33 milligrams of calcium per 100-gram portion. Potato chips have 40, beans have 50, chickpeas 150, amaranth, a grain, has 267.
Cohen says dairy products are a poor source of calcium for another reason.
Every scientist in the world knows that protein inhibits calcium absorption, and milk is liquid meat. It's protein.
What is in milk that you say is poisonous, and why would the government be covering this up?
Well, what's in milk? You're drinking body fluids from other animals. 60% of the cows in America have leukemia virus. 80% have something called paratuberculosis. You don't want to eat something with that name, paratuberculosis. You've got irritable bowel syndrome in America. That's what it causes. 4 million American women have irritable bowel syndrome. You're talking about if your doctor said, I want you to eat today 53 slices of bacon because that cholesterol is good for you, you're eating from your dairy products the same cholesterol contained in 19,000 slices of bacon this year. By age 52, 1 million slices of bacon's worth of cholesterol. You don't want that in your body.
Of real concern, though, you talk about the bovine growth hormone.
Hormone is the big word here. There are 4,000 mammals. There are 500,000 different hormones. Only one hormone, this is the big secret the dairy industry doesn't want you to know, only one hormone is identical in all of nature between two animals. It's human and cow. It's the most powerful growth hormone in our body. Drink a 12-ounce glass of milk. Double the only hormone that makes breast cancer grow once you get it.
I just assume it's milk. No, I don't. What's in the milk I'm drinking? What's in it?
If you ask the author of this controversial new book, you may not want to hear the answer.
The milk we're drinking is filled with fat. We know that. Cholesterol. We don't know it's filled with virus, bacteria, powerful growth hormones, proteins that cause a vast array of allergies in the human body. This is not nature's perfect food.
In a book called Milk, the Deadly Poison, Robert Cohen attacks what's long been considered the perfect food, claiming it can be a dangerous brew of chemical, biological, and bacterial agents that may also contain a growth hormone he believes can trigger the growth of cancer.
We know children come into puberty earlier in America. We don't know why. Every sip of milk, they're drinking, in addition to this most powerful growth hormone, 59 different bioactive hormones. What nations have the highest rates of breast cancer in the world? I ask people, they say, United States. Denmark, Norway, Holland, and Sweden. What nations have the highest rates of osteoporosis, crippling bone disease? Denmark, Norway, Holland, and Sweden. The dairy industry, every dairy farmer, and there are probably a few in the audience now, you know that for every 100 pounds of milk you produce, you got to pay 15 cents to the national fluid milk processors. Doesn't sound like a lot of money. What are they doing with that money? It's $500 million a year to paint milk mustaches on the lips of models.
Robert, welcome to Your Health.
Nice to be here.
Mother says milk is good. What is this? Milk is no good.
Let me tell you about milk. The #1 protein in milk is casein, C-A-S-E-I-N. That's 80% of the protein in milk. That's the same glue they use to put a label on a bottle of beer. That's the same glue they use to hold your wooden furniture together.
So we're drinking glue.
You're drinking glue and you create so much mucus. This much casein, this much mucus.
Okay, we're getting technical. You're using a lot of chemicals.
Yeah.
What qualifies you to talk about these?
Well, the greatest controversy in the history of the Food and Drug Administration was the genetic engineering of milk. I'm the only person in America to be invited to meet with a group of top scientists at FDA. I used to do research, $50 word, psychoneuroendocrinology, the study of brain and behavior, how hormones affect behavior. And I uncovered secrets. I opened up a Pandora's box of secrets that the dairy industry wishes had never been opened.
If milk is so bad, then how come everybody else is so wrong and so brainwashed that it's good for you?
Well, they get Calcium Ripken to pose for his milk mustache. Spike Lee, you got 500,000 kids in the New York area that have asthma. They're drinking this glue every day. Spike Lee, 95% of African Americans are lactose intolerant. How could he wear this milk mustache? This is a message. Money is spent by the dairy industry. If you're a doctor, you call their toll-free number, 800-Y-MILK. They'll send you $200 worth of free information.